Okay, we are live. Here we go. Welcome to the first ever episode of my brand new web show, Zoom from Miles's Room, chatting with cool people about interesting stuff. That's Miles right there, my main man, my 2-month-old baby boy, and he allowed me to convert his bedroom into a broadcasting studio. So
I love it.
he's cool. What can I say? And since the show is about chatting with cool people about interesting stuff, I'm so excited that the first ever guest on the show is the guy you're looking at right there, Brandon Steiner, the founder and the CEO of the Steiner Agency and CollectibleXchange. He's an author. He's an inspirational speaker. He's an entrepreneur and, rumor has it, the inventor of the everything bagel, which might be the most prestigious accomplishment of them all. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Everything's, it was, bunkering in and, trying to see what I could do to help. Trying to reach out to clients and friends and charities and, not trying to sit here on my butt and do nothing. So, I want to make sure that I'm trying to carry my weight any way I can. And, White Plains Hospital is, they need help. They're feeding people and the first responders and nurses. So we're running an auction. I think our auction's closing actually tonight. I think we're up to raising about $40,000 for COVID-19 and, doing a lot of virtual talks with athletes. So that's great, to inspire, motivate. A lot of companies are using our talent to do that. And by the way, for your viewers, if you go to CollectibleXchange, you get my book for free. Just go to CollectibleXchange. You'll see there's the offer for the 3 books. I did that. It's good through tomorrow, through Friday. And, you just pay for the shipping. So that's pretty cool. I mean, if you're a little bored, which I don't know, I'm really bored to some degree too, then you could pick up one of those books and they're easy, good reads, a lot of pictures and usually most of them. So in case for those of you that need a lot of pictures, I always needed a lot of pictures. So glad to be with you, man. It's all good.
It's all good. I'm a fellow New Yorker. I love sports. I grew up on the Yankees. There's a lot to talk with you about, but it's not going to be about me. It's going to be about our viewers. We are simulcasting on Facebook Live, and what I'm going to do is periodically through our conversation, I'm just going to check in on Facebook. I'm looking at it right now, and we're going to get some viewers and some followers. And if you're watching this on Facebook Live, I'm going to credential Brandon. We're going to tell you just how prolific he is. Do a quick Google search if you want to. This man knows everything about building businesses, and not just businesses, building an empire. So if you are starting a business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you have questions about sales and marketing and coming up with an idea, please fire away. I'm so excited to have you here. All right, so much to cover with you.
Ask me anything, by the way. I'm an open book. We didn't pre-discuss.
Yeah, we're just
I love. Let me. Whatever you want to talk about. Hopefully, I could add some value and add some light to whatever you're interested in.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. Can we start with the bagels? Because there's a million things to talk about business-wise. How is it that you invented the everything bagel? I love the everything bagel.
Well, it's true. And a lot of people remind me that I may have invented the idea. I always say your first idea is not your best idea. So that was a great idea, and I didn't capitalize, make any money off of it. But, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I was baking bagels literally since 1971. That's a long time ago. So I had a paper route, and in order to get people to buy the paper from me, I used to deliver bagels to them and milk. So I'd go into this bagel store all the time and pick up the bagels, pick up the milk. And the guy was like, wow, you're a really responsible young man. Do you think you'd want to come in and bake with us? Now, back then, there weren't a lot of bagel stores. And we would bake from 4 in the morning, all morning. And then I'd go deliver the papers at 7. And then eventually I was getting tired. I was only 12 years old at the time, and which is insane that I told him I'd wake up at 4 in the morning, bake bagels for like 3.5 hours, then deliver the papers. But I learned how to bake the bagels and make the bagels. The bagels are very complicated. I'm not going to get into it here, but bagels are a very complex carb and a very difficult dough. One of the more difficult breads to make, which is why most people don't make bagels at home. And I won't go through the whole process, but it is a complex. Which is why I tell people, if you want to be healthy, don't eat a lot of bagels because it's not an easy food to digest. Anyway, so one morning I walk into the bagel store and I asked this guy, Lou, who's the owner, for my typical order. I was bringing to a bunch of the women because they buy the paper from me. And he said, my night baker quit. I said, oh, great. I'm so tired of waking up early. And maybe I'm going to even think about maybe quitting this paper route thing. And he offered me a nice raise. I think it was $1.50 an hour. And I started baking at night. Now, the problem is in the morning, I was baking thousands of bagels with these 3 or 4 other guys. It was just madness. And at night, we were just baking to order. So it was just a couple dozen here, a couple dozen there. I was just bored. My ADHD was kicking. And I just started playing around with twists, onion smushes, and poppy and salt. And, you know, one night I just remember that I had all these seeds that had, you know, all these different flavors and everything coming together. I just threw that on the bagel. And that's how we came up with the everything. And it was delicious. We loved it in my family. Now, that was, I'm not going to show my age, but, you know, bagels was 6 cents. 6 cents! Oh, God. But I never had a sandwich, by the way, because I lived over a Black Kosher butcher, and the bagel store is 3 stores down. So literally within 3 minutes, I can go get a hot bagel. And I knew exactly when they were coming right out of the oven. But I never had a sandwich growing up other than what was on a bagel. I didn't know from white bread, rye bread, rolls. We had bagels in the freezer. Phenomenal bread, by the way, to freeze. If you're going to freeze a bread, a bagel is great because it's, again, very dense, the viscosity of a bagel. So you can freeze bagels, especially when you get them really fresh, put them right in the freezer. You pop them in the toaster oven, and they're like almost like they came right out of the oven.
So this show is already living up to its name and its subheading, cool people and interesting stuff. And we haven't even gotten into all of your business acumen. As a 12-year-old, you invented the everything bagel. I'm good. I'm already good. That's great to hear.
I mean, I had so many different ideas as a kid. I was a very odd kid. And literally when I say odd, I was an odd kid. I mean, you know, entrepreneurism wasn't really popular. I had a lot of strange ideas. I remember my mom had a salon. This is when I actually knew that I was, you know, something was going on that was a little different with me. And I was an extremely competitive kid too, by the way. You don't want to be, you don't want to compete with me because, you know, if I didn't sleep for 5 days to beat whatever it took. So I'm in front of the salon, and my mother owned a salon on Kings Highway and East 2nd Street, and she would make me go underneath the L, was the F train, and give out circulars to tell all the women that the wash and sets were special or whatever she was doing. And then one day I was standing in front of the beauty parlor. My mother's like, "Did I not tell you to be underneath the L to give out circulars?" I said, "Mom, I am giving out circulars." She says, "Well, you don't look like you are. You're in front of the salon. You're not over by the L." I said, "Well, I think it was working pretty well for you giving out the circulars." So I went to like 6 other stores, got circulars printed up for them, charged them X amount per hour, hired my friends. I'm making 25 cents an hour on all my friends. And they're at every entrance to the F train, because there was 6 entrances, and they're giving out the circulars. And I'm making more money off them. I'm managing to make sure they're doing their job. And then my mother looked at me, and I was literally like around 10 or 11 years old at the time. And my mother looked at me and said, "Oh, man, there's something wrong with you." And then I told her, I said, "So how are you paying them?" I said, "Well, actually, I don't really have to pay them because I have a bunch of fireworks that I bought at a really cheap price. And these kids had plenty of money. They just wanted the fireworks. So I'm paying them in fireworks." So I did a barter. And I kept all the cash.
Your marketing plan had levels at that age. Yeah,
I think that, you know, it's like that's an abnormal approach, you know, for like a, you know, 11-year-old. Like that's not how an 11-year-old normally thinks. To go hustle up his kids and then go to different stores and
right.
Yeah, so you know, this was just the beginning of those kind of shenanigans. But it's funny, like when you're on the street and your back's against the wall, and you know, money is important. You know, I needed to make money so I can buy some clothes, have some food. We were so poor back in those days, so the money was important. You'd be surprised what that could do to someone, and it does give you that extra incentive and push.
Yeah, and you authored a TED Talk, which is great. And for everybody watching right now, don't go watch his TED Talk now. Watch this interview. But afterwards, watch Brandon's TED Talk. It's really inspiring. And to kind of bring it full circle, everything we've talked about so far, the idea of the bagels had to do with your paper route, which had to do with sort of your first, as we've mentioned, entrepreneurial venture. And it led to, obviously, you know, the empire that you built, which we're going to get to. But if you can, talk to us a little bit about the way that you sort of upsold the way your paper route started and how you convinced this one lady who you talk about in your TED Talk to buy papers from you.
I mean, one thing I just want to mention is, you know, there's a lot of entrepreneurs is really popular now. You see, it's very in fashion, and you can, what I try to stress is like being a pure 100% entrepreneur is not easy. It's not for everyone, and you shouldn't get down because you just decide one day you just want to start something on your own. It's not for everyone. But the key is to incorporate some entrepreneurism into your game. I mean, a doctor, from parenting, everything. You can incorporate a little entrepreneurism, which means give yourself some room to understand and adapt to what's going on in the market. Give yourself some room to change. You know, most of us are not that far gone in expertise in what they're doing that you can't use to learn some more. And a big part of the entrepreneurism is really trying to absorb in the serving and trying to solve a problem aspect. And I just think that I was just doing a call with a client. They were saying, you know, with all this going on with the virus, you know, I really had to stop and think about pivoting and what changes and what I need to do to make my business grow. And I said, well, I hope you didn't need a virus to get you thinking that way, because you should be thinking that way every day. I've been thinking that way every day since I'm 10, literally.
Yeah.
Like, so thinking that way I don't need a virus to give me the push to all of a sudden, you know, get me motivated to start thinking about, okay, well, how am I going to pivot? Because the truth of the matter is the people that do great work and are extraordinary are constantly pivoting. You have your own self-motivation and your own, your own purpose. I think, you know, for me, a lot of people ask how you go build a company like Steiner. And now I got CollectibleXchange and the Steiner agency, and they've all been great runs. I mean, first of all, it's just been having amazing customers and a lot of support from, you know, the most important thing, which is your customers. But the most important thing I've learned in this paper route is you got to listen to your customers. And so I was trying to win this box of candy bars. I'm running around. I'm trying to get people to sign up for the newspaper, because whoever signed up the most papers that week or that month would win a box of candy bars. And, you know, at a young age like that, you don't need to tell me that twice. I wanted to win those box of candy bars. And I got to tell you, nothing. So I knock on this old woman's door, and had to be well in her 70s. And, you know, I said, man, would you like to get the paper delivered? She's like, no. I said, but I see that you got the Daily News over there on your table, whatever. She says, yeah, I get it from the corner store. I said, it's 8 cents for me, 8 cents from the store. It's a difference. She says, yeah, then I got to tip you. So I go home and I tell my mother, who's, you know, my guru, my mentor, always taught me about business. She's like, sit down. You have to stop selling. You need to start serving, solving. That's the art. You know, you develop relationships by serving and solving people's problems. Don't go to people with a sale. Go to people with a solution. So I'm knocking on doors. I go back out, nothing. Finally, at 10 o'clock, I knock on this older woman's door. And I said, is there emergency? It's you again? I said, ma'am, I need 2 seconds. I said, if I bring you hot bagels every Sunday and milk on Wednesday and Sunday, if there's torrential downpour, blizzard, heat wave, ice on the ground, a woman such as yourself shouldn't be out in this kind of weather. You need something? I'll get it for you, and I'll bring you milk and bagels on Wednesday and Sunday. You would do that for me? I said, yes, I would do that. I was concerned. And sure enough, this lady was the mayor of the neighborhood, and I went from 29 dailies to 199 dailies and 234 Sundays, and I blew it up. And the thing is, you never really know who that person you're going to go in. But when you understand what the customer needs to buy, as opposed to focused on what you want to sell, again, solving, serving is the art and key of underlying making great sales and being extraordinary in business. The people that go into their business figure out they can solve a problem and serve people and are really authentic about it. Because it wasn't easy. So, you know, it wasn't always easy carrying, you know, many, many dozens of bagels along with the papers to bring these women on a Sunday, and then all the cartons of milk and everything. But, you know, something, that's what it took. And it made them happy, and I made extra tips, and it made the business really fly. And I think that a lot of people out there that are listening, I hope that you're really listening to your customers and thinking about what they really need and how to mold that into what you're selling.
Yeah.
And it's a huge issue for me because it's called value proposition. And every time I would see an athlete, because I know your next question is, you know, how do you get the Marianos or the EYs or the Jeters or some of these bigger names? And the answer is, yeah, well, I couldn't bring them milk and bagels, but I think about what they need. What value can I provide them? Most people, when they run into someone who's wealthy or a celebrity, they immediately think about what they can get from them. My immediate reaction, especially since at such an early age, is what can I do for them that would be valuable, that they want to put me at their dining room table? And I always tell people that, and I think this is a point that really gets lost with a lot of younger people, is value. Now, working somewhere for 2 years doesn't mean you're valuable. It just meant you showed up for work for 2 years. Value is what you can do for someone that they can't do for themselves. It's not about what you can Google. It's not about an app you can find. It's about what can you do for someone that they can't do for themselves. So when you see someone, regardless of their wealth or their status, the first thing you want to do is think about what kind of value you can provide for them. And even if it doesn't make you money, even if it's going out of your way, that's how you form and develop a relationship with people. People want to do business with people that have a relationship with, that provide value to them. And I
And
think it's
that,
one of the most key elements in building a business and selling. I'm sorry, I got in a little roll there, but
no,
sorry
man,
about that.
it's brilliant. Let me reset before I ask you the next question, because people are joining in, every moment. So
Okay.
if you're joining us now on Facebook and you want to know more about the topic at hand and the prolific gentleman we're talking to, this is Brandon Steiner. He's the founder and the CEO of the Steiner Agency and CollectibleXchange. If you know anything about sports memorabilia, he's one of the biggest names in the history of that business, probably the biggest name in the history of that business. He's an author, an inspirational speaker, he's an entrepreneur, and as we already covered, he's the inventor of the Everything Bagel. And he's here to answer all of the questions that you can ask him about business and entrepreneurship. And just write them down on Facebook. I'm looking at it on my phone, and we'll ask Brandon, and he'll give you the answer. So returning now to your story and what you were just talking about and those aha moments, fast forward a little bit in your life from that paper route. You're running a successful sports marketing company. You're taking the train in every day. You're sick of riding the train. I've been on that train. I get it. So you're just trying to scrape enough money together to get a car, and you're thinking about how to build your business, and you pick up the newspaper and you see a picture of Mark Messier from the New York Rangers smiling ear to ear because the Rangers won the Stanley Cup. And that leads to a brilliant aha moment. Talk about providing value for the consumer. Tell us about that.
Well, I think that what happens sometimes is, it's all about dreaming big. And I think a lot of times people want to follow their dreams and they want it to be this, this beautiful love story. I mean, we'd all love to, marry the woman of our dream or the man of our dreams and meet him on the top of the Empire State Building, everything else. And I'm not against that. I do believe in all of that. But, sometimes, in business, the money grab's okay. And I tell people all the time, it's okay to wake up and say, you know something, I'm sick of living in this small little apartment. I want to get a bigger house. I want to get a nicer car. I want to go on a nicer vacation, and I want to make more money. I think sometimes your motivation does come from that. So when I was on the train, my wife was making a lot more money than me, and I didn't have my own car. My wife was driving to work the other direction up in Connecticut, and my mom had just passed away, and it was June 17th, 1994. The Rangers won the Cup. And I think, what I try to tell people is it really doesn't matter where you're at. It's really one of the most important things is, most people get caught up. I can't believe where I'm at. I don't know how I'm ever going to make it. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you want to accept. What matters is your level of non-acceptance. When you finally say to yourself, look, I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. So I'm done. I'm done wearing these crappy clothes. I want to upgrade my wardrobe. I'm done with this job who's not paying me a lot of money. I'm going to go get a better job. Until you get committed into a high level of non-acceptance, nothing good's going to happen. And on that train that day, I was like, something, I was really down. My mother was everything, and I was just bummed. And I was like, so I'm done with this train. I'm done with the guy across from me eating Chinese food, the other guy who has his shoes off, and the other woman who's arguing with her husband, who probably is going to end up in a divorce. Like, I don't need to be a part of this whole karma of it all. I need to go to work when I want to go to work on my own, and sure enough, I look at the newspaper and I see that picture of Mark with that big grin and the Stanley Cup. And, I'm like, something, I don't know how I'm going to get off this damn train, but I think I could sell those photos. I think any Ranger fan who just experienced 54 years of waiting would buy one of those photos signed. Now, I did not have a collectible company at that point, really. So what I did is it took me about 3 months to track Mark Messier down to his lawyer, accountant, brother, sister. And I ended up signing Mark to my first collectible spokesperson deal, which included a whole bunch of things, including signing a boatload of those photos. And we did extremely well. And I bought myself a nice Lexus SC400, and I got off the goddamn train. And it was just a complete money grab. I started Steiner Collectibles, not because for the goodman of sports and for sports fanatics, but definitely, my authenticity about developing the collectible business later on was really from the love and really for the fans. It really was. But initially, it was not. It was to get off the goddamn Metro North train so I could buy a car. And it was a money grab, and I would do anything. And I think that level of non-acceptance, me saying, I'm not going to take this train anymore, I cannot do it, pushed me to get my brain going in a million directions. And then I came up with that idea of, the signing of mark and the signing of the thing. So, you got to get into that level and realize that it isn't about where you're at, which I could have felt bad for myself, my mom passing and being on that crowded train. But what's important is that I just wasn't willing to accept where I was at that day, and I did something about it. Because once you don't accept where you're at, your mind starts thinking about what it's going to take and the process of what it's going to take to get you past. And I always say, POP, progress on process is always has to be part of your DNA. It has to be part of your diet every day. POP. You must progress your process. You can't just stay with the same process and expect the same result. Right. And if it all initiates from non-acceptance, I will not put up with where I'm at.
Okay, I have 7 million follow-up questions to that, but I just want to get to some questions from some people who are watching.
Sure, let's roll.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Dallas. He says, hey, Brandon, thanks for the insight about providing a solution to a problem instead of selling. What advice do you have to validate a product or service idea? And how do you know when to pivot and try another idea?
Well, what I always say is, SOS. Don't be stuck on stupid. And don't get me wrong. I think, resilient and being really, hanging in on an idea, not being a quitter is important. But I go by this theory, and I'll give you the answer to this question, which is dream big, sample small, fail quick, and do not SOS. Do not be stuck on stupid, because sometimes your idea sucks. There are times when your dream is just so good, but when you get to the execution stage, it doesn't work out. And to answer your question, when to leave, should I stay or should I go? I love that song, by the way. Should I stay or should I go? Anyway, what I try to do is I go to the people that I trust the most. It doesn't really matter what most people think. It doesn't. So stop worrying about what people think. But you should worry about the people that you trust and care about the most, what they think. And in order to be a true entrepreneur, when you're doing a different service or product, you must go to those people that you trust, that know you, that are going to give you honest feedback. And they will either tell you whether your idea is good, bad, and you put that combination of people's ideas together. And they also will tell you where to go get help. I think what a lot of younger entrepreneurs struggle with is some brilliant ideas I see from some young kids, is they just refuse to ask for help. I mean, if you put all the people that helped me do what I've done over the last 30 years on a highway, it would be from Florida to California. I mean, I couldn't even name all the people that have helped me, and I've been blessed, but a part of it was asking for the help. So that's a big part of it, to know when you're going to stay or go. Ask for the help and ask for some outside opinions. Don't be afraid. Anyway, SOS, don't be stuck on stupid. Dream big. Sample small. Sample your idea if you're so smart. Sample it. The results and the analytics will tell you a lot of times what you won't want to hear, and then fail quick. I always say the truth will set you free. It may piss you off first, though.
Well, all right, so to that point, so you have a good idea and your family says go for it, and you've sampled a couple of people and they say, yeah, this makes sense, this is cool. What's the percentage of leap of faith as opposed to like calculated business plan, and where's the happy medium? So you're at a job and you're over it, whatever, you have this idea, people say it's good. Do you go, or do you write out a 20-page business plan and get investors?
I think you try to do both, but at the end of the day, most people's schemes and scams and dreams don't come true. And it's not because the idea is not good, it's just not willing to do what it takes to execute it. Most of the people that I've seen try new ideas, yeah, some ideas were better than others, but most of them fail because you have to pivot and you got to be committed, and you can't get stuck. And their lack of pivoting, or their lack of doing whatever it took, or changing their idea a bunch, and the ability you look at some of the best entrepreneurs was their ability to change their idea up a little bit, alter it a little bit. And most early entrepreneurs fail at doing that. And listen, if you want to win big, you're going to fail big too. So just because, you may have failed, but it doesn't mean you can't go back and do it again. So you have to have a little bit of a tolerance for risk, and to be able to pick yourself off the floor and try again. And that's where a lot of people struggle. I struggle. I mean, it sucks losing. You know what I mean? It sucks. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I say this and I'll say it again, and we got to answer some questions, but I will say this. Life is difficult, man. life is really, really hard. Entrepreneurism is really hard. I don't recommend it necessarily for everyone, but because it's really hard. The roller coaster ride, the dark places that you go to be able to put an idea into place. Remember, you're coming up with something, a new idea that no one else is seeing and no one else agrees with you. So the faster you understand that how difficult it's going to be, if you know it's going to be difficult, like if the pilot, when you're about to take off, says, look, just want to know it's going to get a little bumpy in the middle of it. You can brace yourself for the difficulty. It doesn't scare you. If you have no idea it's coming, and all of a sudden you get into those, and the plane starts shaking, you get nervous, you get really worried. So the faster you know that life and really entrepreneurship is going to get difficult. So when you run into those difficult times, you're ready for them. It's not going to throw you off. That's so key. And I think in life, in general, it's difficult. So when you know that bad stuff or unfortunate stuff's going to happen, it doesn't throw you off and put you on the side of the road for any extended periods of time. Because that's the killer.
And I can tell you, I lived what you're talking about. I had been doing some public speaking and media coaching for a couple of years while simultaneously being a television host in South Florida. And I left the job at the TV station to go all in on my business for a multitude of reasons that don't matter right now. But I left to do it. And I got some advice, but I also, I got some encouraging advice, but I also got a little bit of what you're saying, which is there's going to be hard times. But I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And the first couple of months for me as an entrepreneur, small business owner, were agonizing. The highs were phenomenal. Booked this huge corporate client, and then the phone doesn't ring for 3 days. And then I'm like, is it too late to go back to the TV station? And I lived that for a few months. So anyone who's watching who is doing this, what Brandon said is so true. I think it, as even keel as you can be and not get too high and not get too low and just keep working hard every day, keep plugging away. Right, Brandon? That's the key. And I want to get back to your personal story, because something else you said in your TED Talk, which, man, it was so smart, was this idea of what's next. So even when you've built something successful like you had done, one day one of your employees or colleagues comes to you and says, and I'll let you tell the story, but basically says you have too many baseballs. And from there, this really, really clever campaign comes about. I don't know if you're looking for a ball right now, but and tell that story. I love that story.
Well, I mean, first of all, I always say your first idea is not your best idea, and you always have to be thinking about pivoting, not letting a virus be the wake-up call. You should be in constant pivoting mode in your business and your life. I mean, nothing stays the same anyway. I mean, you should be thinking about pivoting with your family, with your kids. You should all be working on how to get healthier, how to be a better dad, how to be a better friend. And it shouldn't take a virus like this to push you to now want to do that. Now that you've got some time, we're all thinking about how shitty in a lot of ways we are to our friends and how little time sometimes maybe we were spending with our families and maybe we haven't done for our community. How many people ignore the local hospital? It's unbelievable. Like, I've done fundraising for my hospital the last few years. It's amazing how many people, how do you not make sure your hospital in your area is the best possible hospital that's extremely well funded? How do you not make sure of that? You never know tomorrow when you're going to need it. And it's amazing how many people ignore it until they're in it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a community, you have an obligation to your family, to your community, to make sure your hospital is fully funded, has everything possible, because you don't know when tomorrow is going to need it. And boy, did we learn that lesson in the last month. So it's funny, obviously your first idea is not your best idea. So I've been pivoting using athletes now for virtual tours, virtual conversations, speeches, motivation to endorse products. So I just picked it right up and said, listen, I'm calling up a lot of my athletes going, this is going to be great for you. You don't have to fly anywhere. You don't have to go anywhere. You can maybe do that right from your house. Set you up with a Zoom right in your computer. You can do the same thing. It's not going to be quite as good to touch the people, but at least you can answer their questions personally. And then we can always sign some autographs for some of the people. We can send that out to them. This may be a game changer for you for the better. You may not make as much money as you were making, but I know you'd rather have much more time at home and not have to spend all that time traveling to different places to go to these different events. And so a lot of the players were excited. So I kind of jumped on that 3 weeks ago, figuring as soon as executives and CEOs learn how to do more Zoom conferencing with their staff and clients, they're going to need something to mix it up, change it up. And, people that are having trouble getting a hold of their customers, why not use an athlete as the bait? So this has been great. I mean, I've been busier than ever with this. So what's funny is this guy comes in my office warehouse guy says, Brandon, we got an inventory problem. We got too many balls. So I said, we got balls. So I did a quick little billboard and an ad. I said, don't worry about it. Took a picture of the best balls we had and did an ad, and we started selling the balls. And my guy comes up and says, we're starting to sell the balls. We're doing good, but, we have footballs and basketballs. I said, wow, we got big balls. So I did a second billboard on 95, took another couple ads out. First ad, we got balls. Next ad, we got big balls. And again, I got to keep drilling, because a lot of times when you come up with a good idea, you start getting your ego in the way. You start thinking, what else can I do? No. What else can you do with that other idea that's already working well? You got something that's working. Why not make it work better? And I take the Mariano approach. I used to call Mariano all the time. Dude, can you throw a change up? I used to call him up every time he'd give up a winning hit or something, which was not often, by the way. But when he did, I call him up the next day. I go, I told you, man, if you had a curve or a change up, I'm not throwing any other pitches.
Right.
I have the best pitch, and all I'm doing right now is every day making my best better. I don't have to throw another pitch. And I was like, that's really smart. Like, when you think about the best companies, Apple, Facebook, they don't do a lot of things, right?
Right.
The best companies do what they do, and they do it best, and they keep working their best to make it better. So I started thinking about the customer, back to value proposition. I realized that, and it's like a Nolan Ryan ball, but you wouldn't know that. A lot of times it's really hard to read the signature. So now, back in the 90s, we had a cube. This cost me about 40 cents, and we sell for $5. Pretty good margin, and a lot of people would be happy with that. But I was thinking that it'd be nice to put this in a nice, beautiful glass case. For $19.99, all the ultraviolet rays and glass with a wood bottom, and that cost me about $4.80. So instead of compromising and making the $4, now I'm making $15. But more importantly, my customers are loving the wood case. I wish I had one here. I don't have one here. Damn, I got to bring one up next time. So, and then what I did after that is I created a case because most people couldn't read the autograph. So I put a photograph in the back of the case. And I put some dirt from the actual stadium that the team that the ball was signed from. And I came up with this dirt photo case. I went from $19.99 to $39.99. What's great about that story is the case from $4.80 went up $1 for the photo, the dirt, and the manpower to do it. And now I'm making crazy money on this thing. And my customers are thanking me. I don't remember the last time I called or emailed a company to thank them for coming up with a product. My customers were emailing, thanking me, and mainly because I solved the problem.
Right.
They could show their balls. And by the way, that's funny, by the way. Showcase your balls. And also, listen, we're all concerned about where we put our balls. Listen, we all know how important it is where we put our balls.
My son is listening.
So putting it in a beautiful glass case with a wood, and then make sure you protect it from this ultraviolet sunlight, and then the photo behind it was really solving a problem for my customers. Putting their balls in a much more safer, higher quality place, and then being able to show off your balls, because now people understood who that signature was by the photo behind it. That's funny, by the way. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's funny, but all the way to the bank, all the way from my margins. And it's important to progress what you already do well. And instead of trying to figure out what the next thing you can do, a lot of times I think there's a lot more to be done with what you're already doing.
And I actually think, that's such a great story. I actually think another really interesting part of that story is, pun intended, it took balls to have a billboard that said we've got balls and we've got big balls. Because what's your advice on that? Whatever business somebody has, how bold should you be? How aggressive should you be? How creative should you be?
The sad thing about ball, like my second book was you got to have balls, and I really recommend it for anybody out there that's a salesperson or an entrepreneur. The book is phenomenal, and it's really my mother's favorite line. The book is really everything my mother taught me about sales, and I made a lot of money off of, because I did listen to my mom, and she was the smartest businesswoman I ever known. But I think there's only two reasons to advertise, whether you're sending an email out, and that is for someone to read it, someone to acknowledge it. So no matter how outrageous you want to be, well, you have to ask yourself, is your customer, and you got to know who your customer is, going to read it? And then are they going to respond? There's only two reasons to advertise, or when you do email marketing, whatever. So sometimes I see emails with really weird subject lines. And you have to say to yourself, is someone going to do it? This only matters when you send out an email blast to your customer base. The only thing that matters is that someone reads it, because it doesn't matter how creative it is, what kind of deal you're giving, if no one's reading it. So you need a really creative subject line, but you also have to be respectful of who you're marketing to. And you have to ask yourself, is this going to actually insult my customer base? Is this going to be ignored by my customer base? I always get a kick out of, you're sending Brandon Steiner stuff about, something I don't care about, which you have to admit 3/4 of the emails you get, you're not interested in.
Right.
I mean, that's the shame of email marketing, is that so many people are just blasting out emails, and instead of targeting it, that's the beauty of Facebook, really, when you think about it, is you can really target. If you have a Notre Dame fan, you can target just the Notre Dame fans, a Notre Dame product. And you can get really hyper-focused on it. And that's why I think Facebook is such an amazing vehicle that I think people don't understand. Instead of putting your ad on TV, which maybe 1 out of 100 people are a Notre Dame fan. And I think it's the same thing with collecting. It's not for everyone. So why would I want to go and advertise to everyone about collecting? So, I'm able to go and hyper-focus to the people that are collecting. And I think it's really important that you remember the two things. One, is somebody going to read your ad? Is somebody going to read your email? Are they going to respond? And the proof's in the pudding. So you got to have balls, got a lot of attention. It was on the edge, and I got away with it. I've taken some of those risks before, and it hasn't worked out as well.
But it perfectly aligns with the brand. I mean,
this one did. Especially
sense.
The picture was a bunch of baseballs
Right.
on a baseball field. It kind of worked, and I got away with it. But you got to be careful. But listen, yesterday I did a blog. I don't know if you get my blog, but my wife says I got to have a lot more patience, and I told her that if I wanted patience, I would have become a doctor. And like in this day and age, like I'm going out of my mind, because I've been homebound, and I just gave a list of things you could do to kind of keep you occupied. So it's like you got to come up with creative subject lines to get people to read it. And then your content or deal or sale or service has to want people to go do business with you. But they're not going to ever do business with you unless they get past, they got to read it. And I can't believe how often the subject lines and the intro emails are terrible, or they're not targeted right. And that's where a lot of people go wrong.
And they're impersonal. Let's reset. Do you have a little more time with us? Because we said we were do a half hour, but do you have?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm just happy to be on the phone with somebody that is like talking to me. And even my dog is ignoring me now and hiding from me. So it's been really it's been a complicated few weeks for me. I can't believe I can't wait for the postman to come, even though there's no mail anymore.
Just so you can
show you how old school I am, right? I'm like, oh wow, the postman's here. My wife's like, you're not getting any mail. Nobody mails anything anymore. I'm like, yeah, but at least I can go out and look. The whole thing.
Great. Okay, if you are just tuning in now, or if you just tuned in a few minutes ago, we're taking questions. This is Brandon Steiner. He's the founder and CEO of the Steiner Agency and CollectibleXchange. He is an author. He's an inspirational speaker. He's an entrepreneur. He built an empire. He invented the everything bagel. He's done everything. And this is, for me, the first episode of a brand new show that I'm super excited about called Zoom from Miles's Room. There's Miles right there. I commandeered his bedroom. I turned it into a broadcasting studio. I said, Miles, buddy, can I do this? And he sort of like nodded his head. And I said, that's a yes to me. And the idea of this show, the premise of this show for me is I just wanted to chat with cool people about interesting stuff. Brandon's the first guest we've ever had on this show. And if any of you watching, and I see there are a lot of people watching, it's great viewer turnout. If you have questions for him about being an entrepreneur, about starting a business, fire away. We'll spend another 10 minutes or so with them. In my note-taking, preparing for this interview, I wanted to talk to you about a ton of things. I wanted to geek out just a little bit and talk to you about memorabilia and collectibles. Has there been one piece that you love more than any other? I'm sure you get that question a lot. I'm sure there's been thousands of pieces, but any one or a few that come to your mind that you're just so proud of?
I really love the pieces that, that I have a relationship with the players. The Mark Messier, that hold the cup, we did it, is one of my favorites. I love the Mariano cleats I have from the last game at Yankee Stadium that he ever pitched. It's kind of one of my favorites. I remember going to Mariano. I used to throw the ball into the crowd. And I got him to stop doing that. I grabbed those end of the game balls and was selling them, but I did keep a few. Kept a few of those. Those are some of my favorites. But I've got an issue. I'm actually going to probably do an auction in December on CollectibleXchange to maybe sell my collection. Just because I'm getting older, my kids don't want it, and I think it'd just be better served in other people's hands and use some of that money for some charities that I'm really behind, as opposed to hoarding all these cool things myself, which isn't really. I love all this stuff. I love people that collect strange and odd things, and so some of the stuff I have, some of the letters from athletes thanking me. And thank you letters from customers and fans is my favorite collectible. I'm not parting with that.
Do you think you'll have, will it be tough for you emotionally to get rid of some of those pieces? The fact that you're going to give the money to philanthropy is obviously incredible and magnificent. Will it be hard when that Jeter picture behind you goes away or whatever it is that's
no.
away? No?
It's not going to be. I'm blessed. I love the projects and the creativity, and but no, I've got so much. I've probably put out 30 million collectibles out into the market that I've created and probably sold even more than that. And even on CollectibleXchange, which is kind of a form of eBay, we're selling so many different things. I've seen so many different things that I'll get more joy out of helping people that need the help and raising a lot more money for charity and really excelling some of the things that my wife and I have already started.
That's wonderful. We've talked a bit in this interview about adapting and pivoting and the tough times that a bunch of us are facing right now, emotionally, economically. So my question is for the business owners who are watching, the entrepreneurs who are watching. Okay, we're going to definitely do
transition is really the key word there. Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna before we say goodbye, I'm gonna make sure everybody has all your contact information for all of your books and all of your work.
That wasn't my book. That's a book I'm reading now called Transition, which is, it's just, we're going through a period now where a lot of people are going to go through transition. And this guy wrote this book like 30 years ago and just republished it like 6 months ago. And I happened to pick it up because I'm going through a transition myself. And it was really unbelievable. But the research, he's a doctor, he just did a tremendous amount of research on transition and about the key points in people's lives that go through transition, except we all don't realize it, that we're going through a transition and how much of a positive going through a transition could be. And then usually a transition is a growth spurt, believe it or not. And the guy nailed it. This isn't my book. This is a book by William Briggs. And it just, I don't know, I was in some bookstore and I picked it up. It was first published in 1980. And this guy just nailed it. It's a really easy read. And it's probably a book for most ages because, a kid coming out of college is going through a major transition. The party's over. You get married, you're going through a major transition. I don't care what anybody says, but you're probably not going to stay married long. You're getting, in the age of like 45, 50, you're going to go through a major transition about whether to retire, whether you keep going. So these are really monumental parts of your life. And I'm starting to study it and try to understand it. Because I think there's a lot of baby boomers going through transition that are struggling because we're now living longer. I'm 60. Growing up at 60 with my success, I'd be down in Florida there golfing and getting ready to retire, and I'd be dead in 5 years, frankly. The average age back then was 64. I mean, now, the average age is 85. I feel great. I feel better than I ever have, maybe better than when I was 40. What am I going to do the next 25 years? This transition, I'm not really going to hang it up. I mean, I still got game left. So, and that's the thing. And you got to understand, in order to go forward, you got to understand where you've been, and you got to be able to understand and let go where you've been in order to move forward to where you want to go. And it's not easy because this is the first time for many, many baby boomers to go through this. There's not a whole lot of documentation about 60s and 70-year-old people transitioning, maybe even starting new businesses. But I'll ask you a quick question. The highest level of entrepreneurism in this country is what age bracket?
Well, based on the way you just set that question up, I'm going to guess it's older than I would have thought. 50? 50 to 60?
It's true. It's 55 to 65.
Yeah.
Because we have the money. Older people have the money and they have the experience. And they now have a second wind. So you're seeing much more older people starting new businesses than ever before, even though there's a tremendous uplift of entrepreneurism with Generation Z and younger kids. But the real entrepreneurism that's really happening is with older people that say, I've been doing this 25 years. I've had enough. I'm moving on to something else. I've got money. I've got experience. I can pull it.
And then when you make the decision to move on to something else, if it's not motivated by money, which is a relief, obviously, then you have autonomy to just do something that you love, but comma, it also has to be functional and serve a purpose, right? Like you can't just say, you know what I love? I love making widgets. Can't wait to do that for people, but people don't want widgets, then you're screwed.
Yeah, that's true. That's always the risk you take. But believe me, no matter what you do, when you start something, regardless whether you have enough money or not, it's hard. It's grinding. Hard. And, you're competitive or you wouldn't be doing it to begin with. And you want to win, and it's tough. It's hard.
To go back to what I was going to ask you a few minutes ago, and we'll kind of end with this question. If you own a business right now and you are selling to people now, and people have been adversely impacted economically, they don't have the disposable income that they had 4 or 5 months ago, there's uncertainty. From a sales standpoint, how cognizant should you be with regard to that? Do you lower your pricing? What would be your strategy on that?
The first strategy is the same strategy is, do you have a quality product and you know who your customer is? Stop whining, stop complaining, get up off your ass and start talking to your customers and finding out what they want and create value. It's simple. At the end of the day, I wrote in my blog today, give you an example, I'm going to give you two great tips. But have you ordered any takeout lately?
Yeah, sure.
It's horrible. The person answering the phone doesn't know what they're doing. They haven't even reprocessed their menus or any degree, so they're not really set up for takeout. And then the stuff that comes in is not set up for takeout. Imagine if you had takeout for your family and they put together a takeout family menu. So you don't have to spend, some of these restaurants, if you go to the restaurant, the atmosphere and everything's expensive, but I'm taking out, it should be a little less expensive, but maybe there should be a dinner for 4. Maybe you should have some nicer utensils and stuff that comes with the takeout and you'd feel better about it. Maybe the person answering the phone could know a little more about the menu. Maybe the menu could be a little more adjusted. Maybe it's nice to go get a couple emails about the specials of the day instead of everybody whining and bitching and complaining. And, oh, my God, listen, this takeout thing and delivery is here for a while. It'd be nice to, be able to create some new things where I can go on Facebook and see some new products and new stuff that's coming. It doesn't have to be off the hook, but we're not dying here.
Right.
Obviously we're definitely in a little bit of a tough situation. And then so I'm definitely thinking about going back to my restaurant consulting days and figuring out how I can go help restaurants really blow up their takeout and delivery business, because I think there's a huge opportunity there, which is my point. My second point is, I don't know what you're doing in December and January, but I know what I'm doing. I'm figuring out what the hell I can sell newborn babies and parents and grandparents, because there's more grandparents in the world now than since the beginning of time. And I don't know about you, but I know one thing for sure. In the last 6 to 8 weeks, there's been a lot of stuff going on that will be leading to some stuff popping up in 9 months. So we're probably going to have more babies born in December and January than since World War II. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a huge surge of babies born. Again, there are more grandparents in the world now. It's the beginning of time, more gifting, more creative ideas. Can you come up with a Facebook? Can you come up with a website that really comes up with unusual creative ideas for newborns? And I'm just getting started. I could spend an hour with you now on how to pivot and take your business and go in a different direction. Stop whining. Stop complaining. Unless you're in the hospital, unless you got the COVID, which is unfortunate. And then you have good reason to whine and complain, because it's a serious disease. And if you've lost some people, that's serious. But there's a lot of people that haven't been affected. And it's time to get your head on a swivel. It's time to pivot and really think about what this business that you're in the middle of and service or products that you're serving, it's time to think about how to be resourceful and create value. And I think some opportunities are amazing. I was talking to this health doctor the other day, for example. Oh my God, what I could do. I'm like, seriously? Has there ever been a time, as a nutritionist, where health is more valuable? You should be giving out tips every day, doing virtual seminars, talking about health, what you could do. And then as soon as it's over, people should come and see you. You should be reaching out to every customer you've ever had in the last 10 years saying, hey, there's nothing more important right now than health. Come in after this thing is over. If you want to do a virtual with you, or come into my office when this is over, let me see you. Let me make sure you're in the kind of health you want to be in, and your first visit's free. Are you kidding? More people are going to be focusing on nutritionists, diets, getting healthy than maybe ever before. If this wasn't a message how important health is, then what is?
Right.
And I can just go on and on and on and on and on and on. This whole virtual medicine thing is just it's amazing, and it's really the future. Do I need to wait in the doctor's office for the guy to touch me and And then half the time I could explain what's going on. Half the time he could probably give me the cure, what I need to do. And 3/4 of your doctor visits are a waste of time. I'm just getting started. So, think about it. I'm glad to be your first guest.
Yeah.
Definitely hit me up on Facebook, or I answer all my questions on LinkedIn. I did offer the book, right? One of my books.
Do it, Brandon. Do it again. Do all of your websites.
Yeah, any one of my books. If you go to CollectibleXchange, cxstuff.com, you get any one of my books for free. Just pay for the shipping. You want to get my blog and get the 22 Laws of Negotiating, which is gold. It's about a $50 value. You get it free. If you go to my brandonsteiner.com and just register for the blog, it'll pop down. It'll send you this. It's phenomenal. That's only good through Sunday. And, something, get busy, man. Get going. And if I can help you and get going in any way, I'll try to help you any way I can. Reach out and hit me with what your questions are. Love what you're doing. Keep going. I like the conversion. Now you got to get that, that room look like a studio, and you'd be off to the races, man.
Yeah, I'm going to wait for my son to be a little older, like a month older, and then he can help me. I think when you're 3 months old, you can start contributing.
There's no question. He's got to earn his keep.
Come on. What is this, charity around here? Come on. I had so much fun talking to you. Thanks so much for spending an hour with me, and we'll be in touch, man. A real pleasure. Thanks, Brandon.
Keep in touch, man. We'll do a reunion for sure. You got it.
Right, see
Take care, man.
Bye. And thanks, everybody, for watching. First episode in the books.